Hello and welcome to PRPOI's December live session. As India's largest platform dedicated to the upskilling of the entire PR community, we deep dive into real issues, questions, and challenges that the PR industry faces and bring you real conversations that share relevant insights and workable solutions for you. I am Tarunjeet Rattan, founder of PRPOI, and today we talk about a subject that is possibly creating waves on every WhatsApp group of founders across verticals, but we will focus on the PR community, where we dig into this conversation on blurred lines between stakeholders in the industry across public relations, journalism, influencers, copcom, and brand teams. With these lines being blurred across roles, possibly faster than a trending reel, it's no wonder that a lot of the job descriptions that are coming out for 2025 pretty much read like a buffet of skill sets that is expected to have been acquired over a very short period of time, with several stakeholders in the reputation industry taking on multiple mandates and wanting new rules of engagement. The industry, as we know, is fast changing. And the PR industry has always been one to, kind of look at evolving at a very fast rate, specifically in the last 5 years. But I personally feel that 2024 should officially be labeled as the year of workforce chaos in PR. Why? Because the brand marketing executive is moonlighting as an influencer. The journalist is launching their own YouTube channels. The influencer, who's also a journalist, the PR professional, is doubling up as content creator. And oh, let's not forget bloggers who've donned the hat of serious reporting. I mean, is it any wonder that the entire ecosystem seems as if the entire ecosystem has thrown out the entire rule book and decided to freestyle? Why and when did the seismic shift happen? Most importantly, where is it leading us? What will happen to the agency model slash copcom teams? And to discuss this, we have with us today Geetika Bangia, Corporate Communication Stryker India, and Michelle Pereira, co-founder and director, ElleQuinn Communications. Join us today to solve this entire web and to answer the burning question: who's pitching, who's reporting, and who's influencing? Let's dive in and decode the future of the PR workforce together and see if we can come up with a new playbook of what constitutes a team or team member on all sides. Before we dive into this discussion, let me give a shout out to Comms Adda for partnering with us today for this conversation, and my co-founders Sonai Sokal and Pooja Trehan for continuing to bring valuable conversations on PR to the forefront. So let me welcome them to the panel. Hi, Michelle, and hello, Geetika. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure, Tarun. Thanks for having
Pleasure.
us.
Thank you so much, Tarun, and what a lovely Saturday afternoon. And it's absolutely amazing to be here on this platform. And hi, Michelle.
Hi, Geetika.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's wonderful that we are having this conversation at the end of the year and possibly helping the entire industry prepare for what's to come in 2025. But before we do that, Gitika, would love to know from you, before we get into this meaty conversation, we'd love to know from you and let our audiences understand what got you started in PR.
Okay. So, Tarun, PR was actually by accident to me. So, I was a hardcore a medical student all through this while. And but when I jumped onto my job and I started way back, almost 2 decades back when I started my career, that was the point when I realized that okay, something in me, I loved to communicate always. And public relations or getting strong into interpersonal skills, that was my USP, which I realized of course much later. And that's how I started my journey, and way back. And so connecting with people and PR was something that I was always fond of. And of course, writing, that was the other piece that drove me towards this particular portfolio. And here am I today.
It doesn't amaze me, and I keep hearing this a lot with all the conversations that I have with professionals and leaders on PRPOI. I think an entire generation of Gen X and millennials now just happen to be in PR. By the way, I'm a science graduate.
Wow. So we share the same wavelength then.
So, Michelle, over to you. You moved from heading agencies, working in agencies, to creating your own. What got you motivated to make the shift from being a job holder to a job creator? And are you enjoying it?
I am loving it. And I just thought this was a natural progression. When you have reached a certain level and then you want to do things your way, you might as well, go and start your own. And that's how creating ElleQuinn and starting my own actually happened. PR was something that I pursued when I was way back in college because I was working as an intern in Lintas in the advertising department, and I saw this division sitting in the adjoining office who was so prim and proper and dressed up, and they used to have really smart conversations compared to the way the advertising folk used to converse. And I said, who are these guys? I want to know what they're doing. And that's how digging into it got me to realize that, okay, that's a PR department, but you can't just join them because you have to be qualified. So okay, where does one go to get qualified? We went back and we joined XIC. So that's how PR happened. Okay, I said, okay, that's the clever folks in every agency, and that's how pursuing it happened. And having started, I've always been biased towards the agency side. I've never even tried getting into Copcom or venturing into that field. But after a point, when you've been in an agency for so long, you say, okay, now it's time to start your own, and that's how natural progression just happened.
Awesome. I love that. The most intelligent people in the agency, right? The clever folks in the
Oh my.
agency.
Exactly. I love that.
And well dressed.
Michelle said the clever folks of the industry. Michelle, thank you so much for saying that.
So that's the quote that needs to be put on a hoodie,
Yes.
right? And put
Yeah,
it out there.
put it out there.
So let's get into this discussion. Gitika, why don't you go first on this? Help me understand what was the defining moment this year that for you signaled the industry's shift into this era of workforce chaos.
Okay. Quite an interesting one to begin with, Tarun. And of course, being in the realm of PR, we are into a habit of, conversing, reading so much so that we keep ourselves really up to date with what's happening around. And while reading a lot of content, and also what I remember is that very about, of course, a few months back, whatever, the defining moment, as I would say, that actually signaled me that okay, now the industry is going to be shifting into some chaos that's going to be coming around is when I read this very interesting article. So there was a report, according to, this was a report by D-Term about a year back or so, and they came up with this very interesting which said that about almost, I think, about more than 70%, and I still remember that, more than 70 or 75% of the PR professionals, they highlighted that the need for skills in artificial intelligence and technology integration. And that that was the punch point that actually got into my head that okay, now with the AI technology seeping into our lives, and of course it started about 4 5 years back, but PR into the realm of and AI getting into the realm of into the world of PR, that triggered a lot of things that that okay, it is going to bring excitement, but of course there is going to be a lot of uncertainty around it, because as PR professionals, we will be having a lot of chaos around that how to navigate both the pros and the cons, challenges, benefits, what this entire AI is going to get into. So I think that, I feel, was the defining moment when I realized that okay, we are entering into a world of chaos now.
I'm going to ask you to share that report with us a little later. Michelle, when did you feel that the workforce, employee force, is going to bring in a different level of chaos for us?
Well, I have been heading teams since for more than 15 years now. And prior to Gen Z, the chaos that's coming with Gen Z, we had chaos that came in with millennials. Right? Millennials were the entitled bunch, and they had their own rule book where, they love to share, but they did not
Right.
care about what you thought about it. They had their way of accepting things and their way of working. So from leading teams that were predominantly millennials to now leading teams that are Gen Zers. And somewhere, I mean, it's sadistic pleasure, but I'm also seeing the fun. I'm having fun because I'm seeing millennials trying to adjust to another generation, and I'm like, that's karma. You didn't deserve it. But there's always been a little bit of insecurity. Millennials felt that because of their way of adjusting, and they are not ready for the changes that come with it. Gen Z is now being slapped with AI, right? And AI is an animal that we don't know how it's going to evolve. So whether they're using it right or whether they're using it wrong, they're also afraid of them being replaced by AI. So it's they're also faced with a lot of pressure that they have to keep upskilling to be one step ahead of AI rather than allowing AI to work with them. So chaos has been imminent through the years. It's just every year we see it just reaching new benchmarks. It just goes a bit further every year. And yeah, I guess we have learned to live with it.
You bring up a
I
very interesting
totally,
point.
yeah. Sorry,
Sorry.
Tarun, just please continue.
So I think you bring up a very interesting point. I still remember when Orkut came in and we thought we were the cat's
Oh,
whiskers because we were smarter than our bosses.
Of
And
course.
oh,
suddenly Karma is here to, well, say hello.
yeah,
The Gen Z is completely different. But Gitika, to
yeah.
your point, when you said that, AI is going to be the defining factor here. And Michelle, you mentioned that Gen Z is also kind of looking at upskilling every time. My focus on this question is with Gen Z and millennials who are now possibly at the top of the ladder or probably looking at heading agencies, heading, CopCom departments. Do you think this old dog can learn new tricks? Since we are the ones that created this entire AI phenomena and possibly made sure that we, in some ways, are phasing out of our own jobs, do you think there is still scope for us to evolve and learn AI so that we can work with it rather than work against it?
Okay, so Tarun, I would like to share my 2 cents here. So this is something very interesting, and we see it daily in our teams, and I'm sure Michelle would agree with me. And I would just like to share a very simple scenario that happens with me at my workplace. So yes, I have in
Right.
my team a combination of an extremely, Gen Z and a little bit of a millennial one. And
Right.
so this Gen Z one would always, be on the urge that, okay, I finished this work and I'm really tech savvy. And sometimes on the way that I'm working on the laptop in the, at the workstation, and he will just come near me and he's like, you're not able to get this? Can I help you with this? Don't worry, I will do it for you. And I'm like looking at him. I said, okay, relax. It's okay. I can also find my way somewhere here. And but the thing is, the good part, what I see in these in the Gen Z that we call them as, they are very, very focused. They are very, very purpose driven. They know what they want. They know what
Right.
they want. And of course, because of them being very technologically savvy, they really know how to play with the gadgets. They really know how to play with the technology. So the thing is that they want to be one step ahead. And of course, we have learned it the hard way. And I mean, that's your and, Michelle and myself, we are the millennial crowd. And but we go, I think, the slow and steady ways. And that's how we have learned that way. But I still feel, and that's of course my personal point of view here, Tarun, that slow and steady definitely wins the race. And I think those phrases, they still hold true today. But of course, Gen Z have their own phrases to continue with. So I don't know. I mean, that's my point of view, and I'm sure Michelle would love to add to that.
Michelle?
Okay, so my fear is, I do see Gen Z and the millennials are a little more tech savvy and quicker in using gadgets, right? I come from Gen X, so I'm a generation ahead. But my fear is I don't see Gen Z thinking. I mean, take away the technology and there's a handicap. If they
Yeah.
have to actually go out there and use, gray matter to come up with solutions without AI and without your uh, apps that actually can debilitate you, that is something that I'm finding very, very restrictive. Because if you don't go online and find a solution to your problem, doesn't mean there is no solution. You need to come up with a solution. So I don't think I am not seeing people and the younger workforce actually thinking solutions which we were forced to do at our
Yes.
age. They are just okay. It's not there. It's not online, so it's not possible to solve.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Right.
that is something that I'm finding is can be a little restrictive when it comes to the learning curve of a younger generation.
However, don't you think, like, when, let's say, when internet, Google still started becoming popular, we were the ones that taught our bosses, saying that maybe we can use this to look at researching. I think somewhere we have got to teach the next generation as well that there is a world beyond Google. I think this is a
Yes.
crisis of our own making. But having said that, with influencers doubling up as journalists turning into influencers, PR professionals have got to kind of learn how to adapt quickly to this evolving media landscape. I would like to know, in your opinion, who is a journalist, who is an influencer, and who is a professional, a PR professional, who is a blogger, and who is the brand custodian finally? Michelle, let's start with
Okay.
you. I know you've had a lot of experience with all these segments, so let's go with you.
Okay. So, I don't see any change from where we were 20, 30 years ago. You would remember we had media lists. We had
Right.
lists of advocates.
Yes.
We had lists of columnists. We had lists of food reviewers. So we had
Hmm.
influencers way back then. And
Yeah.
those influencers used to validate information before they went out there and wrote about it. So we used to use, as PR professionals, we had a pitch for journalists, we had a pitch for bloggers, we had a pitch for columnists, we had a pitch for influencers. We used to use industry bodies to create
Yeah.
third-party content. We had certain formula that we used to work with. Things have changed now with influencers now because they are on different platforms and they want to get monetized. Because in those days, food reviewers and columnists, etc., would be paid by the publication. Now
Right.
they have to be paid by your platforms like Google and YouTube, and so they have to monetize the way they are working. But in my books, the true influencer is AI. I mean, even if you go and you're doing any kind of search, what does AI do? Before your pages on Google starts, it's recapping, your AI is recapping your search for you. Where is
Right.
AI getting that information from? AI is getting that information from credible sources like your publications. Who is putting the information into the publications is your traditional journalists. AI is not looking at social media. AI is looking at publications and credible sources. And who's pitching to the media? It is the PR professionals. So in my books, the actual influencers are PR professionals. People like you and me are still going to traditional media. We're still getting earned
Yes.
coverage. It's still going to owned media. It's still influencing AI. We don't have the time to go through 5 pages of Google to get your right links. Before the links start, AI is recapping what's happening on 5 pages. So you have to control what AI is picking up. If you are controlling what AI is picking up, that's influencing buying decisions. You are the influencer.
However, while you say this, with shrinking earned media space and a lot of paid media coming in, a lot of journalists wanting to go on to YouTube and giving their, opinion about things, because obviously there is less and less space in earned media for them to be able to do that, right? How does that integrate into the influencing cycle? Gitika?
Okay. So I'll pick that up. So I think, am I audible? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Michelle put a very interesting point here, and of course, PR professionals, and there have been a lot of now blurring lines between the various, I would say the channels that have been created. And there's one thing, Tarun, that I feel is being on the corporate communication side all through my career journey so far, and I did not get a chance to work on the other side of the table, that was on the agency side. I think being a brand custodian, and I think one point that even you mentioned in your question that initially that you had put. So, brand custodians is definitely from the corporate communication standpoint. We see ourselves, because being a part of the corporate communication teams, so we see ourselves who are there protecting the brand's identity as well as promoting it
Right.
at the same level, right? So it is both protecting as well as promoting a brand's identity. And as Michelle said, that PR professionals, we have always been there, we will always be there, who are looking at managing the overall the reputation, brand identity, communications, two-way dialogue. I mean, you have it, you say it, and it is there in the realm of a PR professional.
Okay.
However, lines, of course, are blurring between whether a journalist or with the influencers now coming in such a big way, and not just influencers. There are freelancers, there are content creators. So the line is quite overlapping. Sorry, Michelle, you were saying something.
I was just going to build on what you were saying. I feel for you because as a brand custodian, it is now even more challenging because you have to keep the narrative the same from social media to earned media to traditional
Indeed.
media to paid media.
Indeed.
And it can be very challenging because the
Yes.
platforms are different, the
Yeah.
audience is different, but the narrative has to be the same.
And
So,
apart from narrative, Michelle, that consistency in brand messaging, and you need to align that not with just a local team messaging, but as well as with the global team messaging. So the amount of critical thinking that goes into it, that has to be a cascading or a top down approach, and you can't just be running your own messaging just because that you are in the country, in a very dynamic country like ours, where the media is changing, the system, the ecosystem is so dynamic, it is so consistently, it is on the change. And I think we, as a country, the PR world, change is the only constant. This is the best line that
absolutely.
I can offer here, to say that change is the only constant, because we are changing so quickly. And and being a corporate communication professional, navigating through all those challenges, Michelle, and Tarun, wherein you have to be at, you know, stakeholder management. So all these challenges coming into place. So I think we have sailed through it, and we've sailed through it good till now.
I think we get a dopamine rush at work, you know.
Oh, yes, so much agree with you.
That's an everyday, I think, dosage that we get. But from what I
Yes.
hear from you, strategist, brand custodian, content creator, crisis manager, PR counsel, overall messaging, brand messaging, content writing, all of it pretty much falls into your domain, your purview, right? Um, if I want to know two things, right? Two-part question. What would your job description be today? One. And second, if you were to hire somebody for your team today, what would a CV for your team look like? What is the CV that you would actually consider?
So
Michelle.
I'll go with that. Firstly, I have not hired anyone from the industry. I, I have consciously not hired anyone from the industry because I don't want people to say, this is how it's done and this is how I'm going to do it. Okay, the rule book has been thrown out years ago. We are not working in the same with the same approach. We are not working with the same audience. We are not working with the same platforms or the same rules. So I've hired people who has been an educator. I have hired someone who's been into CSR and into content. I've got somebody who was just into pure sales, but they are brilliant when it comes to PR. I mean, there's nothing that they can't do. I look for a will issue would be a negator for me, not skill. I am willing to skill people. I am willing to train. I am willing to help. But I do not want people coming from other agencies. You'll have a roadblock when it comes to this is how
What do
it's
you
done.
look for? What do you look for when you hire somebody? What does a
More
CV
a
look like?
willingness to learn, a willingness to try something new, and a willingness to say, okay, what is this animal called PR? I want to go for it. Okay, good, let's go for it.
Much to be said about the courses that are being taught today in terms of mass
Yeah.
communication.
My
And
son's in studying media and journalism.
so you get first-hand experience, right? So the
I get
second
first hand.
question is second part of the question, which Michelle, I want you to answer from an agency perspective first. What would your job role, if you were to take out, a JD for your role today, what would it read like?
Well, I wear multiple hats. I would want somebody who can think strategically on an account. When we get into conversations with clients, it's not we will do a press release, we will do a interview, we will do. You have to think content. Content is at the heart of every communication mandate. How you take it out and who you take it out to and the vehicles you use are secondary. So when I'm looking at people, I want them to think at the heart of the matter. What is the content? How are you going to position this particular piece or this particular announcement? Are they aware of what is happening in a larger ecosystem than just saying, okay, let's do a press release? PR cannot be working in silos. We've seen enough chaos this year, right? When you've got PR, I mean, never have I seen PR agencies issuing statements saying we did not know that this was going to be done by our client. I, this is,
Yeah.
I mean, it shocks me. How did we get here? So you, I would look at somebody who is a critical counselor to the client, and that's a role we play. Where my client is calling me before uh, she's ready to get anything out internally and externally, because today even internal emails are getting leaked.
Yeah,
Yep.
before they put
So
on that Twitter feed, before they put on to X,
or
put out
better
the
still,
internet, or
it goes to the media houses. How does it get there? Because your friend's working in a competitor,
Exactly.
probably. You
Yeah.
have a disgruntled employee. So you if you're not clued in, you want to make sure everything is in place. Otherwise, you've got a potential crisis exploding in your face anytime.
absolutely. This still shows, this is an indication to me that, the seat at the table still needs to be fought for. The seat at the table still needs to be, we might have gotten it once, but it's still, we have to prove ourselves again and again to be able to retain it. You can't keep resting on past laurels of COVID.
Yeah.
Geetika,
No.
over to you. What does your JD look like today if you were to take this JD out? And what will the JD of your team member look like?
Okay. So Tarun, I think whatever points Michelle has just put it up, because they are a very integral part of a JD, or whatever we want to call it. I feel over and above this, there are two things that I definitely want to look into my team members. Is first is passion.
Right.
Whatever you are coming into, whatever you are wanting to work, you come with that passion, with that drive inside you, and you feel happy coming to work. And it is just not, that you need to love your work. Otherwise, after a point in time, you are completely lost into it. And that's where, when people start hunting out that, okay, I'm not happy with this, and then you become, start behaving like a crybaby who is absolutely not happy with anything whatever given to you, right? So passion, that drive, that is something That is very, very important for me.
Hmm.
And the other piece that I really look in a, in a JD or whatever, the person who is in front of me, is collaborative spirit.
Okay.
Working in a multinational organization, we have like corporate communication division is Tarun, and there is a very good, very, very nice and a very funny saying that I have heard a lot in our industry, that copcom, or communicators that we say, we belong to everyone in the organization, but we do not belong to anyone in the organization, right? And
Okay.
so,
Quotable quote.
and we have, and we see it every day.
Yeah.
So your collaborative spirit, wherein you have to, sail through your way with each and every division every day, whether it is support functions, whether it is your business, whether it is your leadership team, getting work done from finance, getting and thereby also maintaining that consistency and that brand narrative, and getting that consensus from everyone, until
Whew.
and unless have that collaborative spirit, it is very, very difficult to sail through, it is very difficult to navigate. So I
And
would
within
definitely,
timelines.
yeah, and timelines. We are always sitting on the edge, Michelle. We are always sitting on
Exactly.
the top of a volcano. You never know when it will erupt, and we are
Absolutely.
always on our toes. So I always look for a person who does not say it's me, me, me. It's always has to be a we, together as a part of our team, together as a part of the team.
So what I hear from both of you is, there is rather than the skill set, you need basic, um, personality traits, one,
Yes,
and an attitude more than aptitude. Aptitude has to be there a little bit, but rest everything else
yes,
can be trained. But those are the things that you look
Absolutely.
for, right? Gitika, if it was your
100%.
job role, if it was your
yeah,
job role, what would the description be like? Give me a one line answer for that.
okay.
I know it's difficult to fit into one line, but I have a lot of questions to ask you, so I'm going to ask you to fit it in a
Yeah,
line.
yeah. Okay. Um, Ready to take on the challenge anytime, anywhere. Because
Awesome.
PR is all about taking up a challenge and delivering it. That's what I
Can
feel.
do, can do, will do
Strongly believe
attitude, right?
it. Yeah.
Wow, I'm
So
getting a
it's
lot
all
of
about
quotable
it.
quotes today, and I think t-shirts are in order after this. Uh,
Hoodies, we are in winter.
Hoodies. Yes, Michelle, we are gone for
okay,
hoodies.
hoodies it is. Okay, so coming back to this conversation, if you were to hire, and would you consider an application, apart from these skill sets, given that, let's say everybody had the same kind of skill sets, aptitude, attitude, would you consider a CV that has been sent by an influencer, somebody who's been in the PR industry for some time, or would you prefer a journalist who's also doubling up as an influencer? Who would you consider for your team, and why? Michelle?
Um, to be honest, this, again, this is something that we've always done. I mean, I was in a very large agency where I had influencers and bloggers as part of my team.
Right.
And some of the people in comms are there, like your co-founder Pooja. She'll also tell you that we one of the people who was in my team was a food blogger, and we had and she was part of my tech team, right? But she was passionate about food, and she was also a food blogger. So having an influencer in your team always helped, because it helped you think, or that person brings another point of view to the table. They'll tell you how to structure, they'll tell you how to approach, they'll tell you how to influence an influencer. What is it that will make an influencer through earned media or through earned approach pick up your piece of or your pitch? But if you don't get that, you're working in a silo, and you'll keep getting those shut in your face. We've also had journalists who switch over to PR, Now it helps. What was it that they bring to the table? They teach us how to write and how to structure the conversation, how to ask critical questions when we are talking to clients, right?
Right.
They're open to learning, but we have to be open to learning too. So if those are the skill sets that can complement your team, I see no harm in having some kind of a liaison with them, or bringing them on board and having them float across multiple teams rather than keeping them restricted to one. I think all teams can benefit from that.
Very insightful, points that you put out there. However, Gitika, I'm going to tweak the question a bit for you. Given the fact
Yeah.
that the PR industry, the reputation industry, relies a lot on confidentiality clauses, right? How does this entire, floating around in different verticals kind of fit into that, right? We used to have, I think we still have offer letters, contract letters, employee letters with rules of engagement, possibly 14 or 20 pages long. Where does that fit in today, specifically the indemnification and confidentiality clauses? And where do you draw the line with your team?
Okay. Uh, of course, Tarun, I mean, gone are those days now, those 14, 20 pages, those traditional offer letters that, used to come. And there were, of course, a lot of reasons because too much of uh, lengthy, those letters and too many complex words that were being used. And
But
it,
they protect the agency, they protect the brand, right? Are we
yeah,
doing away with confidentiality clauses now?
I don't think so. I'm not too sure, I'll be very honest. But yeah, I
I
mean,
can
from
I
a
can
P,
chime in there.
yeah, I mean, from a
I think the
corporate,
conflict, yeah, it won't be between corporate and employee. I think it will
huh,
be more with agency
agency,
and client.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tarun,
So,
not at the corporate communication here, within the brand, we don't see that confidentiality clauses being added, when any employee is being hired in a COP team. So I haven't seen that. Yeah.
okay, that's good to know. Michelle, I'd like you to address this question. If you are hiring an employee, right, how does a confidentiality clause play out for you?
So, see, the confidentiality clause is between me and my client. I am the custodian of my agency, so I have to make sure that I am the gatekeeper to make sure nothing goes out. When it comes to me communicating with my team, nothing goes out to external audiences without the person, our client's approval anyway.
Right.
So it's not that anybody is working on conflicting brands. It's not that anything can get leaked out. And if it is getting leaked out, it is easily traceable. Not that it ever has. But then we know what confidentiality clauses are. Gone are the times where, people used to say, okay, we have to safeguard this. There's a little bit of trust. And I think everybody is aware. And the legal system has evolved as well, where anybody posting has to be aware of what they're posting. You cannot
True.
say certain things on WhatsApp groups. You cannot say certain
Yeah.
things on social media. So I think the younger generation is aware. I think we need to just give them more credit for their knowledge and having their brains screwed on right.
No, no,
So, in fact,
absolutely.
Michelle, I would just like to add a point here. So, Tarun, when being on the corporate com side here, so when we are working with agencies, we definitely make it a point that any kind of a pitching that is being done, the first question we ask is that, are you working with any conflicting client or any conflicting brand, so
Right.
that from our standpoint, we at least try and tighten those, the leakage points or the screws. That okay, there might be any risk of any information getting leaked out, but until unless we, I mean, at the other part, if we know it that there is no conflicting, brand that is being that is working with this agency, so at least 80% of that problem is solved there. But of
Understood.
course, all said and done, all thanks to technology, if the information has to get leaked, some way or the other, it does. That's the sad
Yeah,
part of it.
confidentiality clause or not, if a hacker gets into your system, what are you going to do about it?
No,
Yes,
absolutely,
yes,
but it can't come in from your team, right?
yes.
It
Uh,
can't be a deliberate leak. That goes
Yeah,
without saying.
without
No,
going down.
absolutely. You're giving a lot of. I understand, that information is available, but I'm not sure whether that information has been read. And an offer letter kind of puts that in writing. It is a black and white document that will go to them, is signed, sealed, and stamped, and is a legal
But
document with
Tarun,
consequence.
in terms of a confidentiality clause, I think every employee across the system is given a confidentiality clause because you cannot leak out internal emails as well,
Yes.
However, they
right?
still do happen. So my question to you
Yes.
is specifically, since we are the custodians of reputation, right? We have to be even more mindful and careful about the changes that are happening. Do your offer letters now have a clause which deals with social media, which deals with social media protocols?
Yeah, we've always had NDAs with
Hmm.
employees, which means they cannot post anything that they come across. They cannot post about a client. And if they are going to be posting about a client, you call it out hashtag client, and
Hmm.
it has to be approved internally. Okay, the client also knows that we share. Moreover, we only post about clients when we have permission from clients. There are some clients, if you're working with clients, and I'm working with clients in the cybersecurity domain,
Okay.
we cannot reveal who they are for obvious reasons. So
Right.
those are clients that we'll never post about. We never put out case studies. We do not use them in pitches. We do not use anything in folk awards as well. I do not participate in awards without any client's approval. So all of this
Absolutely.
requires a client because they are the custodian. We are only representing them in the media. I'm not promoting myself.
Okay, in today's day and age where there is a lot of PR for PR happening, I think that this has to be complemented in terms of the restraint and confidence that you have in the work that you're doing. Kudos to you.
Well, it's we've always seen it at press conferences. You'll see one of your youngest team members taking pictures with the brand ambassador, right? Posting it.
They are the first ones
Sometimes,
to do it.
and they are the first ones to do, and that also happens when you're going to have initial conversations with that brand ambassador who's not even come on board. So we've always had to keep them on a leash,
Really.
whether you have confidentiality clauses or not.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
And Michelle,
this is
the enthusiasm that they show, that getting clicked with the brand ambassador and all, because they want to be the first ones to go ahead and just flaunt it. And
yeah.
and when you try and Tarun try to remind them that you're not supposed to do this, they're like, okay, we'll see to it later. Let me first go and get myself clicked with the brand ambassador. That's the approach. That's the level of enthusiasm that these guys show.
No, which is, I don't think that is new, because I remember when we first started out, my first interaction with a supposed brand ambassador, I was starstruck, and my senior had to send me out of the room saying that you can't do this. We didn't have click cameras then, but I was like
Yeah.
starry eyed completely. And that was one of my first sessions that got me a learning that they might be stars, themselves,
Hmm.
but when
Hmm.
it comes to PR, when it comes to reputation, I think this was in the first couple of months of me being in PR. My senior, and then my mentor told me that we are stars in our domain. So when you meet other
Wow.
stars, you have to behave accordingly. There is a saying in Hindi which kind of encapsulates this, which basically told me in Hindi, शेर होगा वो अपनी गली में, इस गली में हम शेर हैं.
Bingo.
Right?
Awesome.
Bingo. And you need to show them because they need to listen to you, right? And you're actually telling that brand ambassador, you're saying this and you're sitting here and you're moving from here to here. So if you act starstruck, there's no way he's going to listen to you. So we
Yeah.
had to actually tell them. So what your mentor told you was bang on.
Bang on. So Tarun, we have another one for the hoodie now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm collecting a lot of them now. Coming back to our conversation, we have a couple of questions, interesting questions coming in. But before we do that, another key question that I want you, both of you, to address, the fact that retaining employees is also becoming a challenge on both sides, right? There are a lot of agencies, a lot of corpcom departments that are now getting into hiring or having contracts with freelancers, influencers, like Michelle mentioned, consultants on that end, right? What, according to you, they are not people who are in your office, and
Yeah.
they don't report to you every day, and they're not all the time thinking only about your account, which is what was expected, I think, when we started out 15, 20 years back. Uh, this entire shifting of stakeholder roles, how has it impacted, the way you interact with your stakeholders, with your clients? Has there been any noticeable, perceptible shift in how they perceive you in terms of, reputation custodians? Good or bad? Michelle, you want to go first?
Hmm. Yeah, give me a moment to think about this.
Okay, so then we come to Gitika.
Okay. So I think, Tarun, when we talk about perception, I would pick up that point from your question. Um, Definitely working in a MNC setup, which is very global. And there is one thing that I have seen, which I feel hasn't changed a bit, whether it was 2 decades back or even if it is today, that being in a copcom role, whether you are heading it, you are a professional or you are a team member, uh, that consistency of being up to date with everything around you is, I think, the first expectation that your stakeholders has been all through while. I haven't seen a change in that at all. At all. Yes, but with the very over ever evolving landscape of the PR and the communications portfolio and the landscape, yes, they have tried understanding the importance of communication better. Ironically, thanks to COVID for that, the entire era that was shifted. And it has become at a level, it has come to a level where you cannot, the stakeholders have started thinking now that you cannot survive without communications in the organization. But yes, coming back to my point, being up to date,
Right.
absolutely in sync with what is happening around you, not just within the organization, but even outside the organization, in the ecosystem, in the industry, that is one expectation that has not changed at all
Okay,
with
so for
stakeholders.
Michelle, I'm going to tweak the question a little bit about for you, right?
Okay.
Always a googly there, right? So we spoke about confidentiality clauses. This same, when you take this question and add a lens of boundaries, ethical standards, authenticity, consistency in storytelling, which remains at the heart of PR, how do you see the shift happening in terms of perception for PR teams?
Uh, See, the thing is with social media, right? And social media agencies. So social media is all about moment marketing. You're celebrating the moment. As
Hmm.
a result, the pressure to see results quickly is predominantly on the Copcom person's plate. So they have to say, okay, we are marketing this brand ambassador kicking this football down the road, etc., and we need to amplify this on social media. So that pressure to always keep up to date with what is happening on social media vis-a-vis PR, which slowly builds a legacy, which slowly
Hmm.
builds your reputation, are two very different things. So ethics somewhere is getting thrown out the window because I'm seeing a lot of PR agencies. When I go in for pitches and I'm competing with agencies who are promising the earth, the moon, and the stars because that's paid PR, and paid PR is getting veiled as earned media,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes I'm sitting and I'm even talking to a brand manager and I'm saying, that might be great, but at the end of the day, you're not achieving anything because that's equivalent to you putting a product placement into a movie, right? The story is not written to have that product in the movie, but your brand is completely out of place. The same way you're looking at earned media, some of the journalists, obviously freelancers, etc., who do these multiple story placements, they charge PR agencies to name a brand in the story. That's become a common practice nowadays, and it looks out of place. And it's not building a narrative, it's not building a reputation. But you know what? Here we got a clip in a Cat A publication. So ethics is getting diluted. I don't think there is a rule book with ethics anymore. Moreover, I feel for my clients, because sometimes the Copcom is the last to know what is happening. Okay, and they only come to know about it when there's a crisis. And
Yes.
it could have been avoided if they were at the table and they were
So
counseling
true.
and saying, hey, no, you cannot do this.
Not.
But the most important person in any company is a Copcom person, because they are picking up stories, be it from sales teams, from HR teams, from internal teams, and from the C-suite. But when they are kept out of the conversation, they find it difficult and say, hey, this was ethically wrong, and how could you expose our corporate brand to? So besides schooling internally, they're also schooling externally.
A
So
lot of schooling out there. Coming to the schooling
yeah,
question, you are both in the thick of negotiating the rules of the new workplace where probably a multi generational war is being waged. Do you think the Gen X and millennial generation can bring peace? One, what are some of the crucial changes that you see happening in 2025 that will probably reshape the PR workplace culture? Gitika will go with first, and Michelle, you next, and then we have a host of interesting questions coming in.
okay.
Okay. So, uh, this multi-generational war in the workplace, I think it's everywhere now, Tarun, and
Absolutely.
you have picked up a very, very interesting and yet I mean, a question that really needs to be pondered on, that what exactly is going to be the answer for this. But I somehow feel that, uh, Gen X, millennials, can they ever bring peace with each other? Uh, I see it this way that yes, both of them, we definitely see playing a crucial role, both of them, in bridging the gaps. Because there are two, 3 points that I see that first is which come across as quite big commonalities between them.
Right,
That
right.
is values. I think despite the differences, both the generations, they share a lot of common values, between us, whether it is Gen X, Gen Z, or millennials, whatever we talk. And what are those commonalities and values when I say we talk about, having flexibility, having a two-way dialogue, and getting more meaningful work. And I come back and I pick up my earlier point, which is more of purpose driven work that we want to do together, right? And having that, collaborative mindset. So when we have to sail through it, it is all about collaboration. And especially in the time of crisis, whether it is with a PR agency, whether it is a Copcom, or whether it is any, you're working for a brand, or be it anything, collaboration is very, very important. You cannot be just saying the me factor, it has to be the we factor, hashtag we. And of course, the crucial things, coming to the second part of your question, is the crucial pieces that I see that will shape up the PR that we are looking at next year, into 2025, is more DNI factor that immediately comes across my mind is when we are talking about inclusion, a more of a respectful environment, a respectful workplace for each and everyone, having that inclusiveness, empathy, and having that respect of work, skilled, unskilled, whatever. That I think is going to be the need of the hour, and that I see one of the trends setting in for next year.
This is fantastic to hear, given the entire world sentiment analysis that is happening, which is moving in a very different direction. It's very heartening to hear you say this, Kitika, and I do hope that's what happens. Here's to 2025. I'd love to take a question from the audience. Michelle, I think this is directed at you. Parul has a very interesting question on the paid media aspect that you spoke about. How widespread do you think is the issue of undeclared paid media? Our audience is really getting fooled out of it.
It's very, very widespread. I mean, uh, 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 journalists are moving. I mean, you do have freelancers who are uh, contributing to multiple platforms,
Right.
right? And they are finding innovative ways to mask paid media as earned media. They're finding innovative ways to include brands and monetize their pieces as well. And rightfully so. I mean, if they are given an opportunity, there was a time when they could self-create. A lot of journalists, ethical journalists, have become self-publishers now, and they are. I mean, with the elections this year, we saw a lot of people moving away from traditional media onto the self-publishing sites, and they are reaching numbers like we've not heard of. Right, Ravish Kumar has crossed 1 crore in terms of viewers. But if there are journalists and there are a set of writers who are not going to be self-publishers, they are going to be contributors, and they are going to be looking at multiple ways on how they can, and they are very innovative in monetizing their pieces as well. So this used to happen many years ago, Tarun. When handling tourism clients, we sent people to various destinations so they could write great things about, but hey, wasn't that monetized?
In a way, yes, it was.
So,
Uh,
so that was the same thing. It's the formula is the same. It's just the way it's moving is different. The platforms are different.
so the fundamentals of communication are the same. It's just being disguised and
Yeah.
repackaged and rebottled differently. Another interesting question from Pooja: is this fear of information sharing for real? Did this exist in the previous decades?
It always was there. I mean,
Always.
we were colleagues at one time, and we were. There was a reason why everybody didn't have laptops, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
that
were
was a
only a
different.
select few.
This was that was a different time, and I don't think the youngsters watching today can even imagine an era where there were no laptops or no computers, no cell phones or no cell phones without camera. We lived
They
those.
wouldn't know that we had a database of direct numbers and extension numbers.
They can
to,
never believe this, Michelle. They will never believe this that we used to maintain handwritten diaries, you remember, with
yeah.
all the contact
Oh,
details by
yeah.
name and with alphabetically order.
Yeah. That
My
was
We
name
have
gold.
that.
was,
I refuse to throw it out.
yes,
Each person's
I'm sure
media
all of you
list
do
was
too.
their calling card.
yes, their calling cards. And I still remember that, adding to, this, the number of visiting cards we used to collect, and the one that used to have the most heavy bunch, she's the perfect one,
Because
having
she
the
has all the
best
direct
crush
numbers.
skills.
Direct numbers to do that. I'm
Direct
sure
numbers.
the younger ones cannot imagine
I'd
what
like to
it
share. I'd like to share an anecdote. Way back in '99, Bill Clinton was coming to Mumbai, and were told that we could schedule a select set of interviews, and because we had approached the media, we told them that we let them know because we hear from the US team in the night. I had their every editor's mother-in-law's phone number because those were landlines. I had their home number. He said, I'm not going to be at home. I'm going to my mother-in-law's house, but call me. But that was my
Wow, you
media
must have been very coveted, yeah?
weighed in gold.
Wow.
Absolutely. Weighed in diamonds.
It was.
Yeah. Mr. Rao has another interesting question. Gitika, I think you should take this. Is it easier to train someone who isn't part of the industry than burdening yourself with a trained hand and mind? We did address this, but would you like to go a little deeper on that before we get into
Definitely.
the rapid fire?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for this question. And I would like to definitely put in a word here. And since as I mentioned earlier, yes, it is not that hard. It is not that difficult to train a person who does not belong to the industry. And coming back to my point, if that person has a passion, that that curiosity and that intrigue, and getting into that level of picking up a challenge and learning, there is no way out that you cannot get that person, train that person. And even if that person is not from a PR background, it is not that difficult. And from a personal experience, and I would love to quote this thing, that I was from a hardcore medical zoology honors background, and I learned my entire PR in my at my workplace with my seniors. So this is way back, almost like 17, 18 years back. It and I take it up because I had that passion for learning. I loved doing PR. And of course, I love doing PR. I will always love doing PR. So I don't feel that the skill set can become as a hindrance or a roadblock for anyone. If you have that in you and you really want to pick it up, it is very much possible. It's very
Fantastic.
much.
I see that happening more and more with, agencies. In fact, in my team of 14, 15 people, we probably have two who are mass comm graduates and everybody else is from a different vertical.
Wow.
That brings
Lovely.
me to our rapid fire round. Geetika, you are up first. One word answers for each one of them.
Okay.
Describe 2024 in one word.
Dynamic.
What would be your go-to strategy for managing a PR crisis today if you had a team of gig workers working with you?
Okay. Uh, I think it would be agility and rapid response time.
Okay, fantastic. One word to describe the biggest challenge of working with a new graduate.
Very, very impatient they are. Impatience is the word.
They know it all. One benefit you see the PR and reputation industry from the current chaos. One benefit that you see happening for the PR industry.
A lot of new innovative ideas coming up. A lot of
Fantastic.
invention. Yeah.
In 2025, PR will be complete this.
With a personal touch, personalized.
Awesome. Thank you so much for participating in that. Michelle, you're up next. A client request that has always made you roll your eyes even today.
Yeah. You've got now that we're in ET, what more can you do?
Okay. Best CD pitch that you heard this year.
There's no water in Bangalore. I need to move to my hometown, and you've got work from home, so you need to hire me.
That was a good
Okay.
one, Michelle.
I want
I think we can probably write a book on that. Again, this
one.
is a part of my hoodie collection. Um, the most overrated skill set in PR today.
Yeah, I always get what you're doing, particularly people from other agencies. I do strategy. Okay, what is that? Uh, it's strategy and client servicing. I'd like to see where they get those skills from.
Yeah, that's always, I'm never sure how to kind of allocate that, but thanks for
Or
voicing that out. Yeah.
quantifying it.
Hmm.
Your prediction for the next big trend in the PR workforce.
I think AI has to be influenced, and I think a lot of people need to, a lot of people in PR need to understand the importance of the role that they are playing. They are here to influence AI, and they need to therefore know how to do that. So I think that's going to
Okay,
be big, rather than AI influencing you.
fantastic. I
So
love the way
true.
you
I
switch.
echo that completely.
Last question. PR is like,
PR is like, let me think. Um, I would say a sari salesman, yeah. Have you
Huh?
ever gone to a sari shop? Here
Wow.
it is, and here it is, and here it is.
or the cow,
और
right?
दिखाओ नहीं नहीं ये नहीं
ये पसंद नहीं
नहीं
आया.
हाँ. I feel
Okay,
that way sometimes.
Last question for both of you. If the PR ecosystem of 2024 were a Netflix show, what would the finale look like? Gitika.
I got this.
Okay, Michelle,
Okay, I
what would
think
the
it would be
finale episode look
similar.
like?
I think it would be similar to Succession, okay, where traditional media is going to be taken over by digital. It
Oh,
your new age media houses are going to be getting more and more prominent. Whether you are an individual publisher, or you are an influencer, or you are a freelance person, but they are content is going to be, and I tell my clients, this content is going to be driven by the smaller uh, publishers who have time to get into the subject matter rather than your fluff pieces.
I I really want to add on to this, Tarun, and last 20 seconds. Michelle, what she said, that content is, I think, going to be the need of the hour. And with this AI seeping in, uh, what Michelle mentioned sometime back, kids are not using their gray matter. So that is one piece that really needs to come into that. If you do not have AI, you really need to use your brain. Please think practically, think logically, and then get into the content creation, because that will help you in the longer journey, and not just having AI won't help. It won't get you there.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation today. I think this was one of the most fun chats that we've had this year. And I do hope we can continue to have this conversation.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, Tarun.
Tarun.
But who gets the hamper for the rapid fire?
All the
Well,
hoodies.
equally divided between the
Okay.
number of quotations that are going to come out on the hoodies. Credit it to both of you.
But it's
Awesome.
Okay.
been
All
fun.
right.
It was a fun
Thank you so
Saturday.
much.
Thanks,
It
Tarun.
was
Thanks.
fun.
Thanks,
Thank you
Geetika. It
so
was
much,
lovely
Tarun, for
talking.
having us here. And thanks a lot, Michelle. Thank you. It was
Likewise, yeah.
lovely.
Take care.
Wishing you all guys a very happy new year.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to all.
So that was Geetika Bangia, Corporate Communication Stryker India, and Michelle Pereira, co-founder and director of ElleQuinn Communications, talking to us about blurred boundaries and how best we can tackle them to create a new rule book for designations on all sides. I'm sure there were a lot of other examples that they could have shared, a lot of other anecdotes, and someday we're going to get together and write a book about it. But till then, continue to watch this session again and put down your questions if you have any in the comment section below, and the panelists will answer them. Thanks again to Comsadda, and a special shout out to Bhaskar Majumdar, Jyotsna Dashnanda, and Mrinal De from their team for collaborating with us on this conversation. By the way, all our episodes are now simulcasted on YouTube and LinkedIn, so you can check them out there too. Please continue to watch them. This year has been a fantastic collaboration of ideas that has brought to the forefront many an interesting conversation. In 2025, we aim to raise the bar a little higher again with topics that matter to you. If you have recommendations or want to nominate a person from the PR industry across agencies and corpcoms, or a topic that you want us to speak about, then tag us in the comment section below with your suggestions and we will pick them up. We will see you again next month with another equally intriguing conversations on PR. Till then, let's talk, engage, and learn together on PRPOI.